There we go. Perfect. So yeah, the next 3 weeks we're kind of going to go through what's new in Info360, our new kind of cloud platform that we'll be continuing to make updates to. And so, hopefully these kind of updates from our product team, we've got Mike and Tony here today, but other product managers at Innovyze who'll be adding to the Info360 SaaS platform will be kind of a regular occurrence. So again, thanks for joining, Mike and Tony. And yeah, I guess I kind of already gave a little intro on us here, but yeah, again, this is Water Talks, and just a reminder on some future events here. We still will be doing our normal Water Talks on Tuesdays. There's kind of a special edition we'll be doing here on Thursdays for the next couple of weeks. Just deep dive into kind of what's new with Info360. But next week we'll be getting back to distribution modeling. We'll have Dr. Sean Huang on to do some water quality modeling in InfoWater Pro. And then November 2nd, we've got a guest speaker, Chris, will be discussing water quality modeling in InfoWorks ICM as well. And then later in December, maybe just mark the date maybe if you're interested, but we'll be having a full user group event the morning of that day, December 8th, where we'll have 3 presentations in one from a consultant, one from a utility, and one from a university actually as well. So I'm looking forward to that, at least having a diverse group on. Let's see. So yeah, again, kind of the main things Mike and Tony will be kind of leading us through here today are some of the main kind of new features within the last, I don't know how many months really since you all joined. It's only been a couple months since you kind of introduced Info360 Asset.
Yeah, it was late July was our beta launch. So
yeah,
this is
so kind of
all the new stuff since then.
Yeah, all the new things since then. So, and again, kind of that's one of the main benefits of Info360 Asset. And I think, Mike, your next slide will kind of talk about this is how quickly you're now able to do things and kind of add new features to the product and just the growth it's gone through just from being in beta this summer to now being commercially available kind of this month. And we're continuously working with those beta customers. There have been, maybe a dozen now folks, consultants and utilities, a dozen or more. I just got off a call this morning, in fact, folks that are kind of adding input to the solution. And, we're continuously working on iterating and making the product better. So again, happy to be sharing those different improvements with you all here today, and looking forward to continuing to do so in the future here. With that, enough from me, and I'll hand it over to you, Mike and Tony, to discuss some of these things.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So as Tim had mentioned, we are iterating really fast on this new product, and really all of our SaaS products built on top of Info360. So I just wanted to kind of explain that in a little bit further detail here, just to talk about how quickly we are really innovating right on these products. So we had originally launched our beta version of the product in late July of this year, and thanks to those of you that had joined the initial launch webinar for that beta. And since then, we've been working with beta customers and pilot customers on some of the features that they would have liked to see either enhanced or added to the product, as well as our kind of standard roadmap of, excuse me, of functionality that we wanted to build. But what this looks like, we have a release milestone, right? And that's typically 6 weeks of sprint work that we do. And we go for the first week, we basically start to develop the new features, so we get an understanding of what we're going to build. We then, in sprint number 2, can actually push out small features, fixes, things like that, all the way up to our production site. And then sprint 3, you'll typically see some what we call medium-sized features get pushed all the way up to production. Sprint 4, so these are 1 week at a time, right? Sprint 4, we can push additional features. Sprint 5, additional features, and then in the last sprint, we typically will push our largest features out for that entire milestone. So what this is intended to get across, I guess, is that you're going to be getting brand new features out from our teams that are working hard on the development cycle, potentially on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And they might not always be big things, right? But the product will be continuously improved. And every 6 weeks, you'll get pretty large new features that are going to be offering you additional value. So this is really one of the core reasons we went to a cloud-based platform, and we're starting to see some of the benefits of it already on our brand new products. Okay, so what we're going to cover today, so what's new, and these are, obviously we've shipped a lot of things over the last 8 to 10 weeks, but this is some of the bigger ones that we wanted to highlight today. So Tony and I are going to go through these. I'm going to kick off with a few of these first bullets, and then Tony's going to jump in, and then I'm going to round us out towards the end. We've added spatial analysis to Info360 Asset, so being able to ingest spatial data for use in your risk models, and then be able to set up the risk models leveraging those spatial layers that you've brought in, and do things like proximity analysis. So I'm going to show some examples of that directly in the app today. We've added some new condition fields coming in for all of your assets that have inspections on them. So we now have all 9 of the fields available that you can use to configure your likelihood of failure for, again, any of those assets that have your CCTV, PACP inspections on them. And then Tony's going to review our condition summary report, which allows you to see across all your assets in your system, all those different condition scores coming in. So he'll break that out into more detail. We're going to show viewing your risk layers on the map directly. So we've enhanced the map aspect of the application. We've greatly improved the risk details page. Tony's going to go through some of those. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about subscriptions and roles. So how do they work in Info360 Asset? What are the different user types? Which ones are free? Which ones are paid? And who would use them? How do they work? So I'll dive into that a bit. And then towards the end, we're going to just show you what some of the in-app guides are that we're building. So as I'd mentioned, we're going to be adding functionality to this product very rapidly. And as a result of that, we want to make sure that our users are aware of all the new stuff that's coming out. And if it's a brand new feature or function, that they know how to use it. And so directly in the application, again, because this is a web application, we can show the user how to use the new features that have come in. And obviously we have a pretty robust help section that we've built out on our website, but this is actually an immersive experience where the user can see directly in the app how to use anything that's new, or perhaps some of the more complex features in the product. Okay, so let's go into those features. So bear with me a second while I swap screens here. I'm gonna escape from there. And Tim or Tony, either you guys confirm that you can see my app here?
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Awesome, thank you. So this is our asset data page, and if you would have seen this in the beta version back in July, it would just basically said assets at this point. And this is where you can come in and ingest your pipes and manholes directly into the product. And what we've added to this section of the app is this other data sources section. So this allows you to bring in additional files, and we're also working on connecting to hosted layers as well, but for now, connecting to the file and ingesting it into the system. So I'm going to show kind of a basic workflow here where we ingest a hospitals layer. So I'm going to go out and grab this hospitals point layer, and this supports points, lines, and polygons, by the way. And hopefully I can spell while I'm on this call with everyone. There we go. And so you can bring in all different types of layers. So any point, line, or polygon layer that you want to use for analysis in Info360 Asset can be ingested. And then you're going to get a list that basically shows you all these different layers when you go to set up your risk models. So the hospitals layer is processing right now. We've ingested other layers that I'll show you in a second, like fire stations, and there you go, successful fire stations, police stations, environmentally sensitive habitats like rivers and streams, wetland areas. And so all these can be used to set up that consequence or likelihood of failure profile. So let's go into the risk model, and I'll show you how these layers kind of play out here. So for those of you that aren't familiar with these screens, let me just talk through them quickly for those of you that weren't on the original webinars that we put out. So what you're seeing here really is for consequence of failure, this is all the different components that I want to use in my overall equation. So I have some attributes that I want to use. I have criticality values. I have the pipe diameter here as a factor. And these are both set at 50%, and it's 25% of my overall COF, okay? Now I've added Environmental factors, again, so here's my wetlands layer, my rivers and streams layer, and here is a 25% weighting on those two. I then want to look at transportation impact as well. So I have a roads and railway layer that I've added to the system, again, through that spatial data import, and I can include those in the model. And then I have fire stations and police stations. So as an example here, right, I could go ahead and add to our critical facilities. I'm going to go ahead and add that hospital layer. So we'll call it and I'll say spatial proximity. And again, so here's my layer here. I won't go through the rest of the setup here, but I just wanted to kind of show you conceptually how this works. So I could add that in and I could give it a score based on the proximity and add that to my model. So again, here's all the different layers that we've added. Let me just go into an existing one just to kind of show you what this would look like. So I could come into, say, my fire stations layer, and I can set based on the distance to fire stations, the different scores that I want to set. And that can work for just a general proximity to the layer as well as an intersect as well. So we can check to see if a particular pipe intersects a road or railway, for example, here. Okay, so that's some additions we made to the consequence of failure setup. So really just opening up a ton of different use cases by allowing you to bring in that spatial data. Where we're going with this feature next in our upcoming milestone is the ability to actually break out those spatial layers by attribute. So for example, if you have a roads layer, you can tell the system to not only determine the distance from the road, but you can also determine it based on the type of road. So you can look at traffic impact. You could have your local collector roads have a different score than, say, a freeway or a high traffic pattern road. And so be able to bring those in and then query the attributes of those and then set scores based on those attributes. So that's in the pipe right now and is actually actively being worked on. So we hope to show you that feature hopefully in the next water talks coming up. Okay, so some of the other risk setup stuff I wanted to show here was the LOF setup and some of the new factors we've added there. I just quickly wanted to point out this use highest score from components as an overall category score. So this was a pretty big feature request for our Info Asset Planner customers to be able to say, hey, don't weight these, right? Just go find me the highest value. So if this pipe is close to a wetland or a stream, right, you can check this box and it'll just go pull the highest score that comes in from any of those. So instead of having to set up, you know, a blended component or anything like that, you can actually bring in the individual files and you can then just choose the highest score. So that is a feature that's available on both COF and LOF. Okay, so let's take a look at our LOF setup here and show some of the new categories we added here as well. So again, for those of you that aren't familiar with this screen, right at the top, your default is going to be your condition category. So if you have inspections on any of the assets, you can use those. And so we can come in and I'll just show you some of the new fields, right? So originally, when we launched, I believe we had just the peak for all three. We've now added the rating index and the overall rating as well. So you can use any of those 9 standards, again, from the PACP scoring system. So just giving users more flexibility to grab these new fields and add them to their risk model. Okay, we've also added some flexibility here to work with this condition data. So you can see here I have this box checked. So if I have an inspection on the asset, it's going to default to my structural peak and service peak in this case, and it's going to ignore other attributes that I want to include in the model. So if I was to toggle this off, right, I can choose to have a blended approach. So even if there is an inspection, I still want to consider other attributes for LOF. But we did add this feature so that users could really hone in on the particular pipes that do have inspections as being kind of the most trustworthy source of likelihood of failure, right? Once they have that condition data, they're going to want to use that in their risk model. Okay, so Tony, with that, I'm going to kick it over to you, and you can show some of the outputs of these models and go through some of the other new features.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm just going to try and share my screen. And it's
let me stop showing, see if it lets you grab it.
Show screen.
Maybe I change presenter to you. Let's try that.
Yeah, sharing. There's the big show screen. No one can see your screen. Start screen sharing now.
There we go. I thought I was gonna have to do your demo here. Uh-oh. Let's see. I stopped sharing.
I think I got it to you, Tony. You should have it. Yeah. There you go.
Am I showing now, am I?
We got you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Mike. Yes, hello, everybody. Basically the output from all of that wonderful LOF and COF calculations is an overall risk calculation for your pipe assets. And obviously you want to be able to visualize those results on the map. So I'm showing the Info360 Asset map. And we've added the capability now of overlaying the risk levels. So on the layers panel that I can slide out, we've got the various grades based on the business risk exposure, from the LOF and COF calculations. So color coded, and obviously, the grades are shown as text, negligible through to extreme. And you can switch again, just like the inspections layer. We can choose to switch off the entire layer or just switch off individual elements or combinations of those, and maybe just show the extremes. So that's what we have added for for this release, for this milestone that we have produced. So if I just move over now quickly to the risk details page, and we'll just let it build. So what this is going to show for each individual asset, it's going to give you a summary of the risk on an asset by asset basis. So on the left hand side, you can see asset ID, risk trend, if there's been a change in the score, whether it's from the LOF or COF, which show a change in trend, and I can use the sorting on each of the columns to promote or demote, ascend or descend. Same goes for risk score, overall risk score, LOF, COF, and any condition data that that's been used. And if I just promote and demote, I'm expecting to see here, Mike, from the risk model, the fact that condition data has been used in this risk model. So maybe I'm using an earlier version of the risk model. But in this column here, what it will show is an open circle with a green coloration with a tick to denote that for this asset, the risk calculation has included condition data. So I can also sort and filter by grade. So if I want to show, for example, the high grade risk results, we can filter by grade, and I can also, as I said before, filter by whether condition data has been used in the calculation of the risk. What you'll also notice on the asset ID column are these links. One of the requests that we had from the previous demonstration and also from some of our early beta testers was the ability to navigate from this page, from the risk details page, directly to the asset details page. So by clicking on what is effectively a link, that takes me immediately to the asset details page. So again, for those of you who are new to the application, this is where we're providing a summary of the attributes for the pipe. We provide a map, a plugin map to show the location. We can use navigation tools on this map. So I believe this is a new feature that we've included. You'll see this repeated on the inspections table in a short while. If I just move down into the overall risk area, this is where we're now presenting the current risk model scores. So we're looking at the risk by grade is high, the total overall risk score, the weighted consequence of failure, and the weighted LOF scores based upon the model that Mike ran. And then we're showing that we're actually, for the business risk estimation, we're using 50% COF and 50% LOF and an addition model. We're also showing the trend in risk from one risk model to the next. Clearly, anything red is a degradation, anything that's green is an improvement. Okay, so a full timeline of our risk calculations. And then in the component section, we've added more detail, more information to help you understand how the risk value has been derived. So you'll see type is LOF, so likelihood of failure with consequence of failure. And you can see Mike's model is quite complex. There's a lot of components that have been used in order to derive the overall risk. And we're showing the weighted scores for each of those components. So you saw that Mike added, I can clearly see that hospitals aren't on here, Mike, so maybe I'm not showing the latest risk model, but nonetheless, we can see what the relative contributions of each of the components that were used in the risk model to calculate the overall risk. Okay, so I think they're the additions to the risk details page that I wanted to show. If I now quickly move over to the inspections. So again, those of you who are unfamiliar with the application, the inspections list shows for each inspection that's been collected over time, the header details for those inspections, right? So we're seeing obviously the inspection ID, and we calculate the inspection ID based upon the upstream node that was inspected of the pipe, the downstream direction, and then the date and time field. You'll also see we've got links on this page to the various inspections, to the asset, to the pipeline reference, and to the manholes, and I'll show you that in a second. So if I click on the, actually before I do that, Mike mentioned that we've also added a condition summary page, which lists the full details of the condition calcs for each individual asset. So again, on the left-hand side in the first column, you've got the asset ID, you've got the latest survey date for that asset. You've got the three areas related to the ratings that is calculated from the PACP scoring algorithm. So we've got the overall quick, the overall index. We break out the structural quick and structural index, and the O&M overall quick and index. Again, on all headings, you'll see the ability to sort. So I can sort by overall quick, so I can see my worst case pipes. I can also filter by the overall quick, for example, or by the structural quick or the O&M quick. And what this does, it takes the first digit of the overall quick, which is the worst case defect, and then presents, and then obviously filters based upon that value. So I'm only showing my 5s. So if I was to increase the pagination, I should show my if there's 50 pipes with a grade 5, I'm showing those in the list. So we have sorting on individual headings and also the ability to filter by overall quick, structural quick, and O&M quick. So from this condition summary table, we're also able to leap immediately to the asset in the same fashion that I did from the risk details page, or I can jump immediately to the inspection record that was used to calculate these ratings. So clicking on the survey date, that launches me straight into the CCTV condition observations page. I haven't got a video here or images, I do apologize. But if I did, I'd be showing the video and the images for each of these defects. And then this should be familiar to people who, you guys who've seen the previous presentation. This is where we show the ratings, obviously, and the general properties, the header table for the CCTV inspection. And again, we've included a plugin map that locates the CCTV inspection. And again, we're color coding the inspection based upon its conditions severity. So back to the conditions, back to the overall inspection list. So just to show these links, this was one of the most requested features from our previous webinar and also from our beta testers, the ability to jump from the inspection list to the inspection details, and even in this table to the actual pipe itself that was inspected. I think that's everything I need to say, Mike, in terms of the risk and condition summary page. Oh, the one thing I will add also, the good news is that we are currently working on the MACP manual inspection standard published by NASCO. So we're currently working on that in this this current iteration. So you should be able to see the we'll be able to do a demo of that MACP system in a future webinar. Yep. So thanks very much. Over to you, Mike.
I think you're muted, Mike. There you go.
You're muted, Mike.
Awesome.
There you go.
Well, not awesome that I'm muted. Awesome that I'm now unmuted. Let's see here. Okay, now I got to figure out how to share my screen. There we go. We use Microsoft Teams typically at Innovise, so I got to refigure this out. Okay, so it's show my screen is gray right now. Tim, Tony, you might have to relinquish control. There we go.
That should be coming to you now. I think
Cool.
the one thing just from that agenda, yeah, you got it already.
Yep.
Perfect. Yep.
Cool. All right, so I'd mentioned user guides, and some people love these, some people don't love them so much, but we think that they're going to be handy for our users. And we're going to give the user the ability to say, kind of, don't show me these again. But for new users of the system, when you log in, right, you get a basic intro to the product here. So that's one of the first guides we did, and I'll just show some other examples here. So first time you visit inspections, right, you can see what you can do in the page, and then it kind of guides you through, and these are all interactive as well. So it'll show you how to do your first upload, right? And this GIF will actually go through the whole process, right? And so this is what an upload looks like. Here's how you go about doing it. And this would be available to any user in the system who has the ability to upload inspections. So this will go through that whole process. I'm gonna go ahead and finish that one. And now if I was to actually go in and create a new upload and do a data ingest here. So let's just, I don't want to have a duplicate inspection. So let me delete this one quickly and we'll add it again. So if I was to come in and upload a new inspection here, and let's go to a single inspection and we'll add this single pipe. And while this is loading, I'll just mention, so this is available to, speaking of roles and permissions, right, this would be available to both utility users to do an upload as well as people actually performing the inspection in the field can actually get in through this portal and upload the inspection data directly. So it's bringing it in, it's doing some processing here, and what it's going to give me next for a screen is the media page, which again is going to give you a nice guide to get through this page. So now it gives the user the ability to see, what can I do in this page? Well, you can actually add media to many inspections, right? So this actually supports both a bulk historical upload workflow as well as an on-the-fly upload for users, again, bringing in those inspections kind of in real time, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, from the field, to make sure that you have that latest condition data available. Okay, so that's a couple of the guides here that I wanted to show. Next, I'm going to show just some of the different roles and permissions. So the main role that you've been seeing throughout the entire demo has been, the Asset Full Access subscription, and that is a paid seat within Info360 Asset. So that would be someone who can essentially do everything, right? They can configure the account, they can ingest data, they can invite users, they can set up risk profiles, they can ingest inspections and approve inspections. So really all the different kind of core functions in the tool. But we also recognize that there are other kind of more collaborative workflows, both from the field as well as other just general purpose flows at the utility as well. And we've actually made those seats free in Info360 Asset under our early adopter pricing program. And so we can have kind of unlimited collaboration in Info360 Asset. So I just wanted to show kind of what that would look like roughly. So I'm going to log out with that user. And I'm just going to quickly pause my screen because I'm showing my credentials here, and I'm going to log back in. Okay. And now I'm logged in as an inspection field user. Okay. And then this user can pretty much do one core function, right? They can come into to the utilities Info360 Asset environment, and they can upload inspections. So they can go through that same upload workflow. Now, they're only going to see the inspections that they've ingested. So that's kind of a good permissioning and security aspect to the system, is that they'll only see the inspections. They can only submit those inspections that they've ingested directly. So that's what that role can do primarily. And then I'm just going to quickly log in as my last user here. This is where it's handy to have multiple email addresses. Go ahead, Tim, if you were going to say something.
I was just going to say there's some questions coming in through the chat here.
Yep.
That we'll definitely get to in a sec. I'm sure Mike and Tony would love to address
I'm
how
pretty
this
much
product relates to Info Asset Planner and Info Asset Manager, which have been available through Innovyze for a while. But one thing too, we had a question from Dilip: could this session and previous sessions of Info360 be shared? Yeah, absolutely. I think the recording of this will be sent to everybody who registered, and I think we have a previous recording from July that's on our website post already when we kind of announced the product then. So I can send you that as well. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll get to those questions in a couple seconds here. Just to quickly wrap up the roles here. So this is another free collaborator, right? This is a viewer. So this user can pretty much interact with the map in the same way that other users can, right? So this is where anybody with a web browser at your organization could come in and see the complete history of condition on any asset. They can see the risk score, they can see the details, and they can see, all those same reports that we were showing. So for inspections, right, they could see the condition summary. But you'll notice that this user, although they can view inspection videos, they can't actually ingest any data. They can also only see approved inspections that have come in, right? And then when we go to the risk page, they're really the primary thing, the only thing they can do on this page is view the risk details report here. So these users would be free with your subscription. So you would only have, you'd only need to get a license for the users that are actually configuring. Everybody else can come in and collaborate. So something exciting that we were happy to add to this web application. Okay, that was it. I was hoping we had a really exciting new feature we were working on where we were actually doing some calculated fields for users, both calculating slope and calculating the buried depth that we were going to use for COF and LOF calculations, and just didn't quite get there today to show it. So we will definitely show that on the next Water Talks, and be excited to show that and other features to everyone here. Okay, let's get to the questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess if you could start with that first one. We had a question from a couple folks that own our software already today, Ethan and Tim. How does this kind of relate to Info Asset Manager, Info Asset Planner, just kind of in general here?
Yeah, so let me just go through. So the first question was, it says kind of, will this make Info Asset Planner irrelevant? And then the second one is kind of more along the lines of, how does this relate to it? So right now both products are available, right? And there's no plan at the moment to end of life Info Asset Planner. So that product is still there. It's in many ways more fully featured than what we have in Info360 Asset for this first version that we've put out since July. But the long-term intention is to have this web-based product be a complete replacement for Info Asset Planner. So we're obviously a ways off from doing that. And we also have a program as well that existing customers can take advantage of to actually use both products in different parts of your workflow. So long-term, this would be our future kind of capital O&M planning risk modeling solution, but that's a ways off at the moment. what else would I add to that? I think that's it there.
Yeah, I'll add something to that also. So with Info Asset Manager, obviously Mike demonstrated the inspection upload process where you're in the field, your contractor or your field guys would log in to the system and upload the PACP access database, right, along with the videos and images. That's a much more efficient method than we currently have in Info Asset Manager. Where we take access databases and import them using the importer tools. So that inspection upload is much smoother, a lot more productive and efficient. So we're encouraging any form of CCTV inspection management to consider Info360 Asset. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. So Tony, I'll throw another one over to you. So this was asked from one of our consultant customers that I know. So are we planning to use scores for MACP, and which scores would we use in that basis?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So the plan is to support both level 1 and level 2 MACP inspections. And for those of you who know, obviously the component scores are calculated. So they take into consideration the various components of the manhole in determining their overall score, but also the individual defects that are collected on each of those components is then used in a similar fashion to how PACP is calculated. You get those 9 ratings, right? The overall, the structural, and then the O&M. So it's full support for both level 1 and level 2 MACP. And obviously, and I failed to mention this, I should have mentioned, with those, the ingestion process that we show for PACP, for the pipelines, it'd be the same process for MACP for the manholes. So again, an access database typically with videos and images to be uploaded. And then clearly we'll be calculating the ratings, and those ratings will then be exposed to the risk modeling part of the app, to do risk calculations for manholes. Yep. I think that's all I need to say on that.
I'm combing through the questions. We got a bunch here, so I want to make sure that I get to as many as possible. And if we don't get to all of them live on the call, we're going to send a follow-up like we always do, right, Tim? On some of these. Okay, so one comment says, great functionalities. Are there any limit for setting layers or attributes for LOF and COF? Sorry, I missed that earlier webinar. So no, you can theoretically create kind of unlimited components there, and as long as you create a weighting for your categories and components that totals up to 100%, you could add all those in. I'll say that we're adding a couple things. So you can use the attributes that are coming in as part of your network, right, from the GIS. So you can leverage those attributes for the attribute-based components. And as I mentioned, we're adding some calculated fields for the user as well. So starting to do some of those kind of nice to have things for the user, like calculating gradient, calculating buried depth, et cetera. And then you'll be able to leverage those as well. So we're continuing to expand upon the types of fields you can use in those components. We're also working on the ability to bring in, and this kind of gets to another question there about bringing in cost data as part of a COF. We're adding user-defined tables to Info360 Asset, where the user can come in and bring in any tabular data they have from a CSV or Excel, and they can then map the fields, define what that field is, and then they can actually leverage that as a new table that we can do a join to the asset in Info360 Asset, and then you could, at that point, really bring in any data that you have from your system. Okay, let's see, Tim. I don't know if you or Tony have any other.
I'll take the upload. Yeah, so somebody's asked, can we upload multiple pipeline inspection reports in a single load? So Mike alluded to this, and we certainly demonstrated it on the previous water talk. As Mike said, the bulk upload is possible using that upload tool. And obviously, if you were to be onboarded, we'd ask for for those historic inspection records that you may have in another system, or perhaps you've got multiple access databases on a file server. So yes, absolutely, multiples could be uploaded at the onboarding stage. But also, obviously, the workflow for the inspection upload portal is sort of a day-to-day ongoing basis where your field crews or contractors will be uploading from the field the access databases and the videos. What we're also changing slightly for the upload of the inspections is the ability to upload an access database to then ingest the inspections and then set those inspections as approved before the media has been uploaded. So we're going to have a sort of interim status where those inspection records could then be used for risk modeling. Currently, the workflow is that the inspection has to be approved with media in order for those inspections to be used in the risk calcs. So again, a sort of an enhancement, if you like, to the workflow to get inspection data into the system. We're not going to be insisting on the media and the video files and the images in order for you then to be able to use the inspection records for risk modeling.
Yeah, and that was a direct result of some really good beta feedback we got from some of our users. So if those users are on the call, thank you for that. I'm going to grab another one here.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Mike, just rest assured that the contractor will still know which inspections require media to be uploaded. So it's not, and the contractor can't actually set the status. It's the utility, the client who will be setting the status to be approved, even though media is missing. Right. Okay. Just wanted to make that point. Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Yeah, that was an interesting use case where we wanted to make sure that all the right data was there for the kind of real-time ingest, but also making sure that people could get going with a treasure trove of historical condition data that they wanted to use. So I'll stick with the inspection upload topic. So we have a question here. Learning about your software for the first time, can approved operators input/extract data in the field on a mobile device? So it depends on what you mean by mobile. So this product is available and accessible through a Chrome browser. So they could use a laptop or a tablet to access it. We don't have a dedicated mobile app yet, but it certainly is something that we will look into in the future. But yes, if they had an internet connection, from the truck or from whatever location, they could actually start, the upload process, as well as viewing the data, all the data that they have access to with that contractor seat directly from a tablet or a laptop with an internet connection. There's a question about integrating with EAM products such as Infor, and I'll expand that out to even say other things. This is me paraphrasing here, but expand that out to CMMS systems, others. So no dedicated integrations yet, but it is definitely on our roadmap. Let's see here. I think that's most questions. There's one at the bottom about.
There's a couple more. One, is there a report module for RIME index for project planning? Do you know what that abbreviation is? I'm not actually quite sure.
Yeah, this is a methodology for prioritizing maintenance. So clearly, the direction of travel for Info360 Asset will be if you're familiar with their planner workflows, is to have rehabilitation prioritization, right? Leading into creating work orders effectively, right? And then prioritizing those work orders. So further down the line, we'll be looking at similar type of prioritization methods, to identify which work orders. I mean, the complexity, it's a lot more complex than currently what we support in terms of conditional risk. You've got to bring into factors such as cost, for example, right? But essentially, as we progress this application, that's the area of the asset management sort of world that we want to get involved in. Yeah. So thanks for that question.
Yeah, we're really excited about the direction we're going with rehab planning in the cloud. So stay tuned on a future water talk for that. We've gotten some really good feedback from some of our early adopter customers on some of the designs we've done, and we're looking to get going on that as well. So this kind of circles back to the Info Asset Planner question. Yeah, obviously a huge gap between what's here today in Info360 Asset and what's in Planner is that rehab planning. We also like to think that there's a lot of really great features in Info360 Asset that don't exist in the desktop as well. So I think that's most of them. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it. Yeah, then that's a great update from you all. I appreciate coming on, and I'm looking forward to kind of, if we end up doing these quarterly more often. I mean, you're explaining at the beginning how quickly you're able to kind of work and through the cycles and everything, that we can have this more often and very transparent way, get feedback through people's questions, and watch this product grow kind of quarter by quarter, sprint by sprint, if you will. So yeah, I think this has been great. And yeah, any kind of closing things before we wrap up?
I guess, Tim, if anybody wanted to give it a try themselves, right, how would they get a hold of us? What would that process look like?
Yeah, any of the emails below you see on the screen, feel free to reach out. While yeah, beta phase has technically kind of ended, but certainly are options available that we can make available to kind of learn more about the software, test drive, things like that. So feel free to do reach out to any of the emails I think you see there on the screen.
Yep, and I'll just quickly close on that same topic with, I'd mentioned this earlier, but we do have a special program for our existing desktop customers to start using Info360 Asset. So don't hesitate to reach out if you're an existing customer as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thanks everybody for joining. Next week we'll be diving into Info360 Insight, so more on the hydraulic modeling and dashboarding tools there, looking at live data, and then the following week we'll be looking at Info360 and how that relates to InfoWater Pro and InfoWorks WS as well. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all for attending. Bye.
Stay safe. Bye.